Apprehend God in all things, for God is in all things. Every single creature is filled with God and is a book about God. Amen. Amen. Man, it's bright. So if you see me doing that, it's bright. So I have a confession to make to you. So it's just for us right here, and then all of you who are watching on TV, you millions and millions of people watching. I forgot that it was Valentine's Day Friday. How many people forgot that? Nobody helped me out. Not one person. Not one of you guys helped me out. All right, so Cindy and I are good, although she's not here. So but no, we're good. We're good. She knows the reasons why, so we're all good. We're all good. But so once I made sure we were good, though, I started thinking, you know what? This is just great. Just one more piece of evidence. One more piece of evidence proving, without beyond a shadow of a doubt, that I'm not perfect. Can you believe that? I hate that. I hate it when it's just, there's nothing you can do. It's just right there in your face. No, I'm not perfect. I'm just not. And I've got a lot of evidence throughout my years. But yet, even though I have all that evidence, there's still something in me that thinks I'm supposed to be perfect. And it just works me pretty consistently. I'm supposed to be perfect. And by perfect, I mean like flawless, right? Flawless. Never get flustered. You know, not human. And today's gospel isn't any help. It's like, God, I can't get help anywhere. You guys don't help me out. The gospel doesn't help me out. It's like, if you just look at it right on the surface, basically what it looks like is Jesus saying, yeah, you better be perfect. You're not even allowed to be angry. I mean, have you ever tried that? To not be angry? Or to pretend like you weren't angry? Did you ever try that? It's not good. It's not helpful. But there it is. So if you're just looking at it on the surface, it seems like Jesus is saying, yeah, you better do this and you better do this perfectly. I mean, look at the gospel. Look at it. His refrain in the gospel, Jesus' refrain in the gospel is constantly, you have heard it was said. You have heard it was said. You have heard it was said. And then he says what he says. You've heard what it was said. It's like he's taking the ancient law, the 10 Commandments and some other laws, and really making them impossible to live. I mean, the 10 Commandments, we could do that, right? I'm not going to kill anybody anytime soon, I don't think. So I'm good there. But then he adds this whole angry thing, and it's like, well, wait a minute, right? But if you look at the gospel deeper, at a deeper level, not just on the surface, not just fly by it, I think Jesus is saying something very different. I think Jesus is really asking us to take something that's external and make it internal. Take something, laws, rules that are external, and put it inside of our lives. Okay? Because if you look at the 10 Commandments, what are the 10 Commandments? What are they for? Well, they're boundaries for relationships. John in the Bible study class really helped me out a lot with this piece. But they set boundaries so that people can live in relationships with each other. And they set boundaries so that people can live in relationship with God. So the 10 Commandments are great boundary setters. But they're external. For a relationship to grow, those externals have to be internalized. If I'm just supposed to love Cindy because somewhere it says you're supposed to love her. She happens to be your wife, supposed to love her. But it never gets inside my own heart, my own soul, and I don't love her because I love her. What is that? And it's the same thing with God, and it's the same thing with the people of God. So the 10 Commandments are fine, and they're wonderful boundary setters. But Jesus is saying you got to take those and internalize them for them to matter in your life. So he's saying, in a short form, take responsibility for what's going on inside of you. Take responsibility for what's going on inside of you. And don't put it off on somebody else. So if you're angry, say you're angry. Don't say, you made me angry. See what I mean? Internalize that which is externalized in order for relationships to grow. Because you see, the whole gospel really in its heart is about relationships. How do people live in relationship with God? How do people live in relationship with one another? And the 10 Commandments aren't enough for relationships to grow and to be what they can be. Take responsibility for what's inside of you. You see, not so that you can become perfect, flawless, not human, but so that if I take that responsibility and see what's inside of me, then maybe I can have some compassion for you. Because I know how hard it is to live this human condition. Or at least how hard it can be. That's what Jesus is trying to get at. Okay, so here's how it's played itself out in my life. Are you with me? All right. Man, it's bright up here. Okay, so this is how it's played itself out in me. And I love what Josh said a few weeks ago. I'm not saying this because I'm so interesting. I'm saying this because this is how it's played itself out in my life. Okay, so before I came here, I worked at a big church in Dallas. And this big church in Dallas had a Eucharist every day. Every single day. And whoa, I didn't mean for it to come out quite like that. But, so, 7 o'clock, 7 a.m. every day, Monday through Friday. And then 8 a.m. on Saturday. Okay, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m., 8 a.m. on Saturday. And I was the youngest person on staff by 20 years. So guess who got to do lots and lots of those? Okay, so I got to do, I usually ended up doing about 10 a month when it all was said and done. And so, you know, sometimes I wasn't always on time. Okay, I was late. So sometimes I was late. And most of the people who were in the service, and the people who were in this service, there was a group of them, about 10 or 12, and they didn't come to church on Sunday. They went to church Monday through Saturday, and they never came on Sunday. And they had their own little group, and they had their own coffee mugs out in the little foyer area afterwards, and they had their names on it and everything. And so yeah, it was their service. They owned that service. There was no doubt about it. Most of those guys were okay with being a little late, but there was one person, one woman, who whenever I was late, she was standing there, and she had her watch out, and she was just doing this. And she was always dressed really nice. She was a beautiful, beautiful woman. Very well-mannered, very proper. And she just couldn't stand me, you know? I mean, to just be honest, she just couldn't stand me. So not only was I late a couple times a month, but you know, the way that I did the Eucharist, she didn't quite like. I always felt compelled to say a 2-minute meditation or just something on the scriptures. Most people liked it. She hated it. And the way they did the Eucharist this was the old altar, so the altar was pushed up against the wall. Okay, so it was pushed up, and so if you were the celebrant, it was like this. Your back was to the people. That just drove me crazy. So I was always trying to figure out a way to turn around, and that drove her crazy. So, we were just different. The whole way we went about doing the church thing was different. The whole way we went about work, all of it was different. And I would never say, oh, I was mad at her, but man, she frustrated me. And then one day, it was a Saturday, Saturday. You know what happens on Friday, so it was a Saturday. And so I was like 10 minutes late. I was pretty late. And she was just beside herself. I mean, she just was in my face yelling. It took every ounce of restraint that I had to not fire back out at her. Because the longer I did the service, the more angry with her I just really was. And it interfered with any kind of relationship that we were going to have. We didn't have one. It was just frustration and anger all the time. So, I went and talked to my boss at the time, a priest, and I just said, I just 3-4 times a month, I feel like I'm going to be late. And he just started laughing. Perfect response to me was that. It really was, because he basically what he was saying is, yeah, me too. It's okay. It's really okay. And then I started talking about the woman, and he after I finished, he started laughing, and he goes, yeah, she gets on my case all the time. And I was like, oh, great. So I can really unload now, So, so I've got him on my team now, right? And so I just, it all came out, months and months of just frustration and anger. And then he stopped laughing. He just got real quiet, and he let me just keep talking. And he goes, yeah, you're really angry, aren't you? No, I'm not angry. Yeah, I'm really angry. And he goes, yeah, well, think about it this way. She's angry with you, you're angry with her. And what I can tell you about her is her life has been really hard. She's had a really hard life. You wouldn't know it looking at her. And then he went on to tell me some of the things why her life has been hard. And then he ended it, and this is what's always stuck with me. He ended it with, she could just never be enough in her life. Everybody expected her to be perfect. Her parents expected her to be perfect. Her first husband expected her to be perfect. And after they got a divorce, the church expected her to be perfect because they wouldn't let her take communion. That was the way we were back in the day. Way back in the day. If you were divorced, you didn't get to have communion, right? Because you weren't perfect. Right? And that shifted things. Because I know what it's like to work and work and work and never feel like you can do enough. You see, that's not what the gospel's about. That's not what our religion is about. It's not about working and working and working and always feeling like you're just not enough. You're never going to get there. That's not what it is. What Jesus is saying is know what's going on inside of you well enough so that it doesn't own you, but then also so that you can have some compassion and openness for the people who are sharing this human journey together with you. That's the good news, my friends. It's not about being perfect. It's not about that. So get off my case about forgetting Valentine's Day.